with the police chief up at High Point during another protest rally, if you will. And at that point, the police chief actually jumped the barricade to have conversations with protesters. One of those protesters was Pastor Ora Quick. At that point, the pastor challenged the police chief to have more accountability and transparency within the department. And then he also said, or he also asked the chief if he would publicly right now condemn what took place with George Floyd. The police chief did, and then the pastor continued to ask the police chief if he would get every officer to do that. We are told that that has happened and that a recording will be played later on this afternoon when this crowd gathers near the police department. You may be able to see right now the police chief and pastor up front. Right now they're saying "One Nation for Justice," which is really the rallying cry of this march up here in High Point. One Nation for Justice. They're now chanting "Black Lives Matter." Black Lives Matter. All of this obviously centered around what took place with George Floyd in Minneapolis. Protesters, not only here in High Point, but throughout the Triad and across the nation for that matter, are looking for racial equality. A number of protesters that I've spoken to over the past few days, and a week or so for that matter, are really looking at a systematic change, not only within the police department, but also the justice system. Let me go ahead and just let you kind of take in what is happening here for just a little bit. It looks like they're stopping for just a second. Let me go ahead and let's see what's going on. Oh, somebody's passing. I think everything's okay. So I'm up a little bit on a hill right now. And as I look, hey Brian, pop up over here real quick so you can give people a better view. You may be able to see a little bit more of this crowd. And boy, it certainly stretches for at least a quarter mile, if not more. There are white people, black people, Hispanics, a number of different people of race and ethnicity are here. Young people, I've seen babies in strollers, elderly people. And the message that everyone here again wants to get across is one nation for justice. So this is what's taking place right now in High Point. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of let you soak in everything that you're seeing in regards to the crowd and the signs. Certainly, Chad or Julie, if you have any questions for me, feel free to ask, but I'm just going to let you guys kind of take a look at this and let our viewers kind of take a look and absorb this right now. I think one of the things that I am seeing is a number of young children that are out here right now. Their parents have brought them, and these are kids. Some of them appear to be in strollers, so I'm guessing they're 1, maybe 2. I've seen a number of other little kids that are no more than 4 or 5 that are walking along with the protesters. This group continues to chant. Right now the chant is "No justice, no peace." It is certainly an impressive demonstration. The pastor had hoped, organizers had hoped to get a crowd upwards of about 1,000 people. And while it is certainly not an official count, it does appear that there are close to 1,000, if not more than 1,000 protesters that are out here right now. And it is a warm day out here too. And this march is expected to be about 1.5 miles, maybe a little bit more. A number of the protesters continue to walk with their fists in the air, others with their hands up, signifying that hands up, don't shoot, that we have heard and seen a lot, certainly in the past week or so, but obviously throughout the past many years. We also have a number of volunteers that are out here providing water, which is going to be important for a number of people. As we mentioned, it is warm out here. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of let you guys watch what's taking place right here. Again, if you have any questions or anything you would like to say, please feel free to ask me anything. Julie, Chad.
You can bring the mic up if you need to. Hi, Kevin Kennedy. I just want to welcome the viewers who are watching us on Facebook Live right now. Kevin, as you continue to follow this group of marchers along University in High Point, why don't you set the stage for them, for the people who are just joining this live feed?
Absolutely. So this is a march that has been planned. It actually goes back about a week when a pastor here in High Point, a Pastor Ora Quick, had a conversation at a Sunday protest outside the police department last week. In that situation, the police chief actually jumped a police barricade and engaged with a number of protesters. One of those protesters was Pastor Ora Quick, who has been a pastor up here in the High Point area for more than a dozen years. And at that point, the pastor basically challenged the police chief, that police chief is Kenneth Schultz, to condemn what took place with George Floyd. And he wanted his entire police department to condemn that. And then he asked the chief if he and other officers would walk along during a scheduled march. Today is that scheduled march. Well, I can tell you that the police chief is here. He is in uniform, up at the front of the line, marching with a number of protesters. We are guesstimating there are probably about 1,000 or so protesters up here. Earlier, when we were up a little bit closer to the front, I did see the police chief and Pastor Quick arm in arm, shaking hands. At one point, the pastor put his arm around the police chief's shoulders. You could tell that there was certainly an appreciation of each other, but more importantly from the pastor for the police chief to actually take part in this march. They are calling this march One Nation for Justice. Much like we've seen across the Triad, our state and the country for that matter, protesters are looking for racial equality. They want justice within our police departments. They want justice within our justice system. And this is their way of basically peacefully demonstrating and saying this is needed and asking for this. It is certainly a big step to have the police chief along with us. We are told that as we get closer to the police station, where there's a kind of a press conference, if you will, that's scheduled, that a number of recordings of officers, we don't know if it will be everyone, but a number of officers, we are told, have publicly denounced what took place with George Floyd. We are led to believe that a recording will be played that will have those officers publicly denouncing what took place. Right now they're chanting, what do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. Julie, that's the scene right now. As we said, about 1,000 people out here right now, all different races, all different ages. I've seen people in strollers. I've seen elderly people.
Kevin, we are watching.
Certainly an impressive demonstration. Yes, Julie.
Kevin, we are watching this march along with you live here on Facebook Live. We are seeing that Kenneth Schultz in the middle of several of the marchers wearing his mask. Also seeing, as you're talking about, the diversity of this crowd, young and old, all different ages, all different ethnicities. Can you let us know, I know that this march, it was planned, you're saying a good 1,000 people out there. Was there an estimation ahead of time about how many people were expected? Is this a surprise, or were we expecting more people? Kind of tell us in terms of the organization of this event, Is this was what they were expecting?
I believe it was what they were expecting. Certainly this came about rather quickly, if you will. This was, as we mentioned, a conversation that took place literally a week ago today. And at that point, the chief and Pastor Quick agreed that something like this would take place. Pastor Quick and Police Chief Schultz, from what we are told, have been meeting, if not in person, certainly over teleconferencing over the past few days throughout the week, kind of coordinating this protest march. They were expecting about 1,000 or more so people. So certainly, without talking with the pastor right now, I do believe that they are certainly happy with the turnout. And the fact that the police chief is walking with protesters is what the pastor hoped for. It certainly provides a message that is being sent by the police department. I can tell you that there are a few other police officers that are out here. It does not appear that they are per se marching necessarily in the crowd, but they're certainly marching on the outside of the crowd. That being said, this is exactly, I think, what organizers had hoped for in regards to the size of the crowd. And they're walking down University Parkway right now. We have just passed Green Street. It is, as we said, Julie, it is a large crowd, and it is certainly impressive. And it does, at this point, from what we can tell, stretch for at least a quarter mile, maybe a bit more. It's starting to kind of get a little bit longer. Certainly the heat is impacting some folks out here, so the crowd is kind of separating just a little bit. But the message remains the same, which is one nation for justice. This is what this march is about. This is what organizers have essentially labeled it. And that's simply put what they are looking for. They want justice that is equal amongst every race and ethnicity. You can just kind of take this in right now. The crowd just continues to almost seemingly grow and grow.
Kevin, thank you. We are continuing our coverage regarding marches happening here across the Piedmont Triad. On the right-hand side of your screen, you're seeing the demonstration in High Point as marchers walk along University Parkway. Now we are going to go live to WFMY News 2's Alma McCarty, who is live near LeBauer Park. Alma.
Yeah, Julie, I am right in front of the newly built Tanger Center where people are still just flowing into the park. I just want to give you an idea of how many people are here. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not great at estimating crowd size, but this is looking to be over 1,000 people here from folks that I had spoken with earlier today. Again, this is a protest that is beginning around 2 p.m., so around now, in LeBauer Park against police brutality and against, of course, systemic racism. We're going to get a little bit closer, but we wanted to start back here just to give you guys an idea of how many people are still showing up to this protest. This is probably one of the biggest protests that I have personally seen throughout the week. You know, we had 5 days of very, very peaceful protests, not to mention last weekend's protests. Much of those were peaceful up until the very end when there was some unrest. But right now in LeBauer Park, it is that same sense that Kevin was talking about of unity, of coming together, of saying enough is enough, condemning racism. So as we get closer, I'll probably stop talking for just a little bit, just to give you guys a sense of what the crowd is saying and who's out here, just so everybody is on the same page. We are live on Facebook. We can't really control any time that there is profanity from members of the crowd. Can't really control if there's any profanity from some of the signs that are out here. So just things to be aware of as you are watching our live stream. But we're just gonna, for a moment, take a walk around LeBauer Park, which is again just overrun with protesters and demonstrators today. Everybody out here, again, coming together against racism, systemic racism, police brutality. Thank you.
party. I know that you're kind of getting a sense of the people.
Julie Luck.
Hi, Alma. I know you're getting a sense of the people and the number of people gathering right now at LaBauer Park. This event starting at 2 o'clock, so just getting started. Over the last 6 minutes is when everyone's supposed to congregate. Can you tell us what the game plan is? Are people planning to march, or is this event going to be primarily held at LaBauer Park?
To be honest with you, Julie, we're not entirely sure what the itinerary holds. What I've heard from folks out here is there are going to be some speakers, some singing, some prayers. I would guess that there was a march. We don't know at this point, but everybody out here is wearing black. It is Blackout NC. Hashtag Blackout NC is what this event is called, again, against police brutality within the city of Greensboro and really across the nation. And of course, this too comes on, just after Mayor Nancy Vaughn released a statement to the protesters, really to the demonstrators, saying, I hear you, we also want these things to happen, we want justice. At some of the protests in the past couple of days, some of the demonstrators, some of the speakers have called out city leaders for either not showing up or not doing enough to end police brutality and to try to take a crack at ending systemic racism. So I'm curious to hear what exactly they are going to be saying out here today, but I just want to emphasize at this point that the crowd really does keep growing. The spirits out here are very good. Again, everybody wearing black in solidarity. This is this event called hashtag Blackout NC. So we're just going to give you another quick look at how things are out here. Speakers have not yet come up to the podium in LaBauer Park at this point. We're going to see if we can take a little walk around to get a better shot that way. Okay, I'm just communicating here with my cameraman since we are in a very big crowd of people.
Oh, hey, daughter. How are you?
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
You're looking at live pictures of downtown Greensboro, specifically at LaBauer Park, where people are gathering right now for an event. They're calling it Blackout NC. This is the reason why you're seeing a lot of people wearing black right now. Our reporter is, and our camera person, giving you a tour of a good 1,000 people, and it appears that more and more people are arriving. Alma is still going to give you a tour, also getting some more information too. It is a hot day.
Right.
Just like over in High Point, there are volunteers handing out water. So we'll check on her and getting any information about what's being done to keep the crowds safe. It's unclear if the crowds will be marching through downtown Greensboro, but as we've seen in many other demonstrations and some of the other marches throughout the week, plans do change. They have organizers that said, we're going to stay in this place, but they end up walking around, that kind of thing. But Greensboro police do say that they are ready for the protest, and if it is on the move. Do want to mention one thing, that a small group of protesters have been spotted outside the Costco on Wendover Avenue in Greensboro. We're also told that the exit ramp from I-40 onto Wendover Avenue is closed. We're trying to confirm if that is connected to the small number of protests outside of the Costco. Of course, we will keep you updated on that.
Right, and on the right side of your screen, you see WFMY News 2's Kevin Kennedy there. He is following along with a very large group of demonstrators who are making their way down, I still believe it's a university in High Point. Kevin, how's it going out there?
Yeah, it's going really good, Chad. I'll tell you, I'm going to give you a quick update. We are on University Parkway, as you mentioned, but I'm going to tell you that my early estimations were probably quite a bit off. As this march continues, this crowd continues to grow. Certainly, it's an unofficial estimate, but it certainly does appear to me like this crowd could be well in excess of about 2,000 or so protesters. We'll try to get an official number for you later on this evening, but certainly it does appear like this crowd is of about 2,000. We've kind of worked our way a little bit towards, I guess, what would be considered maybe the middle portion of this March protest. We've kind of got a little bit of a gap here between a group that's up in front of us and the group that is behind us. The message that continues to kind of resonate with everyone out here certainly is one nation for justice. This is what this march was basically billed as. That is the overarching theme of this March protest or what have you. They simply want equality for all. They want justice not only within the police department, but our justice system for everyone. And I can tell you that the crowd that is out here certainly is a mix of all different ages and races and ethnicities. It does seem to me, based on conversations I had with one of the organizers, Pastor Quick, earlier this week, that this protest crowd is, if not as large as he was hoping, possibly even a little bit larger than he was hoping. They have just turned off of University Parkway. The crowd has made a left onto Leonard. They're basically heading towards the police station. There's a little pavilion area just past the police station, which is where everyone will essentially gather. At that point, there will be some conversations that will be had, some presentations that will be made. We are told that there will be a recording that is played of a number of High Point police officers condemning the incident that took place in Minneapolis with George Floyd. I can also tell you that up a little bit farther in front of this protest, High Point Police Chief, and we showed you him earlier, walking with this crowd in uniform, walking with Pastor Quick, one of the organizers, and at times they were shaking hands, smiling. Pastor Quick had his arm over the chief's shoulder. It was certainly a moment that I think would resonate with people here when you see the police chief walking with this crowd, essentially saying, I am with you, and I am a part of this, and we as a High Point Police Department will do what we can to go ahead and work together. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of let you soak in a little bit. You see another officer right there in uniform. I'm just going to go ahead and let you kind of watch everything that is taking place right now as we make our way up towards the High Point Police Department.
You are looking at live pictures in High Point where one march is happening, and it's happening at the same time as a demonstration in downtown Greensboro. But again, this is a live picture of High Point as people are walking from University Parkway and making their way over to the High Point Police Department. This event, it's called One Nation for Justice. And the police chief, Kenneth Schultz, he is walking among the demonstrators and the marchers walking along right now. And what we saw last weekend, on Saturday, there are barriers outside the High Point Police Department, and what was a very emotional moment, I should say, Chad, is that the chief jumped over the barriers and he talked one-on-one with the protesters, and it was a very constructive conversation. I also understand there was a lot of, I wouldn't say it was a tense moment, that there was yelling, but as long as the dialogue continued, that yelling then turned into whispers. So there was some camaraderie there, there was some understanding, and this is kind of one of the reasons why we're having this today. Kevin Kennedy on the scene, estimating 1,000 up to 2,000 people marching along right now. Hard to estimate because, you know, they're on the move. But he has seen people of all ages, of all ethnicities out there today, many of them wearing black over in downtown Greensboro. That organization, that event is called Blackout NC. But they're heading their way now to the High Point Police Department. Yeah, and if you've been following us for the past several minutes, Julie had mentioned before about a situation developing just off of Interstate 40. We've just learned from Greensboro Police that because of a protest, that drivers can expect delays on West Wendover Avenue from Meadowwood Street to Bridford Parkway. We understand that the exit going from Interstate 40 to Wendover Avenue is closed because of a group of protesters.
WFMY News 2's Itanise McMiller just arrived on scene. She said there are about 40 protesters there, so a smaller group compared to what we are seeing here in LeBauer Park in Greensboro, as well as what you're seeing here live in High Point. But this is a developing situation. We are going to check in with Itanise in just a couple of minutes. But again, if you are driving in that area, be aware that you can expect delays, possibly even closures from West Wendover Avenue, from Meadowood Street to Bridford Parkway. Police are encouraging you to find a different route because you know, the situation could last for potentially a while.
And plus, it's a Sunday afternoon. A lot of people going to places like Costco or over to the Sam's Club. So keep that in mind. If you are heading over into that vicinity, that is the reason why you're going to be seeing slowdowns over there, because dozens of protesters along West Wendover Avenue. Again, you're looking at live pictures of High Point and a march there as demonstrators make their way over to the High Point Police Department. Kevin Kennedy is there. He is watching the crowds, walking along with them. Hey, Kevin, have you been able to talk with the marchers, maybe the parents who brought their children with them? Have they said, you know, this is a teachable moment for them? Have you been able to talk to some of the other protesters about what it means, the significance of having Chief Kenneth Schultz walking along with them?
I can tell you that I have talked with some folks earlier. I've not been able to speak with anybody during this march, Julie, but I have been able to speak with some folks prior to this march, kind of getting underway, specifically related to that question that you were asking about the young children. And they basically said that it's just important. Look, this is something that they told me that their parents, their grandparents, and probably their great-great-grandparents, although they didn't mention that, have been kind of fighting for and striving for a number of years. And it was important for them to have their children come out and to be a part of this. I certainly believe that there is hope that change actually can happen, and that this may be the tipping point, or the spark point, if you will, for serious change in regards to not only our police departments but our justice systems. And I think they wanted those children to kind of be a part of that and to be able to witness this, so that they can look back as they grow up and actually say, look, I was there when a difference was made. We made a difference. Collectively coming together, we were able to make a difference. I can't tell you that the crowd, like we were talking about, is certainly upwards of 2,000. I can't tell you that I have seen a number of other officers and captains and corporals also taking part in this march in uniform, some of them walking side by side with members of the black community, talking, laughing. In one situation, I believe I saw them holding hands as they were walking, a sign of kind of solidarity. We have made our way all the way to the end of this march. We are at a small parking lot pavilion. It's the Nathaniel Moorhead Rec Center, right next to or adjacent to the High Point Police Department. And that's where everybody is gathering. It will take, however, some time for everybody to get here. As we mentioned, this crowd was probably about a quarter mile to a half mile long, and it is hot out here. So certainly people may be going a little bit slower than normal. Right now they have someone up on stage singing some gospel music as the crowd kind of continues to filter in. A number of people have kind of propped up on the outside of this parking lot, seeking a little bit of refuge from the sun, kind of finding a place of shade, if you will. This is an asphalt blacktop, and it is warm out here. And while a number of people are carrying umbrellas to provide a little bit of shade, and certainly water has been passed out along the way, it is warm. But they do expect, like we were talking about, I'm guessing about 2,000 people to kind of come in here. At that point, we were told that a number of people will get up on the stage and speak to the collective crowd. It is certainly not a guarantee, but there is a good chance that one of those people that will speak to this crowd will be Police Chief Kenneth Schultz, who, as we said earlier, was walking up towards the front of this march with one of the main organizers, Pastor Oric Quick. I think you see the chief right there, kind of talking with another officer. It is quite a scene, Julie, I can tell you that. It is certainly quite a scene to see everybody, or at least a lot of people, coming together on this afternoon.
Kevin, thank you. You're talking about that is quite a scene with thousands of people over in High Point. We're bringing you live now to another scene. This is developing right now along Wendover Avenue in Greensboro, where dozens of people are now gathering. This is near, Chad, I believe that is that the Wendy's over there on Wendover Avenue. Regardless, we do know that the exit ramp to Wendover Avenue, I should say, is closed because of these demonstrators. We're going to bring you live now to WFMY News 2's Itanise McMiller, who is live at the scene right now. Itanise.
We have protesters here on Wendover Avenue, right here in front of Applebee's. There's about, I'd say about 40 or 50 of them, and they have been here for about 10 minutes or so. We actually saw some employees from across the street here at Red Lobster bring out some biscuits for them. Folks here at Starbucks right here brought out water for some of the protesters. There's also, if you are planning on driving on Wendover, you may want to try and find another route because the Wendover exit 214 is closed off for these protesters. You can see down in the distance at the intersection, there are police blocking off the road in this direction and also back this way as well, near Stanley Drive and Wendover. So if you're planning on coming down this way, you may want to try and find an alternate route because they are rerouting traffic right now. These protesters are stagnant. They're staying right here, so maybe a while before they open this road back up. And this is the same organizer, Anthony Morgan, who organized the first protest on last Saturday, outside the Civil Rights Museum. I've been out here for about 5 minutes or so listening to them. They're talking about making sure, folks get out to vote to make sure that a change is made. Also talking about electing, new officials in the school systems and in the judicial system. They also mentioned a young man named Marcus Davis as well. I'm gonna pan so you guys can see some more. I'll let you listen to the organizer for a little bit. Excuse some of the language. I'm just going to move back a little bit. And there's folks with some signs as well. They read Black Lives Matter.
Reparations without education is a disaster. It is a massacre. It is time to be re-educated.
You are looking at a live picture right now on Wendover Avenue. There are a group of protesters who have basically shut down Wendover Avenue. They're standing kind of right in front of the Applebee's across the street from the Red Lobster. There's a lot of businesses and restaurants right in this area. From what we understand, they had walked from near, this is just west of Interstate 40. And looks like they're continuing to walk here now on Wendover Avenue. Greensboro Police sent us a release earlier alerting us to this situation and alerting drivers to this situation, saying that there are delays. Obviously, you can see here from Meadowwood Street to Bridford Parkway. It looks like they have stopped speaking here at the Applebee's and are now moving, I believe, west on Wendover Avenue. Looks like maybe a group of 75 to 100 people, a much smaller group than we see at LeBauer Park in downtown Greensboro right now, but they are on the move.
And what's significant about this demonstration is we primarily over the last several days have seen the marches in downtown Greensboro or in downtown Winston-Salem or in downtown High Point. Here is one that is along Wendover Avenue. It's kind of bizarre seeing a car just stop right in the middle of Wendover Avenue when it's nearly 2:30 in the afternoon. on a Sunday afternoon in Greensboro. So we will continue to follow this group as they continue to make their way along Wendover. But for those of you just joining, if you are going to be maybe heading to Costco, maybe you plan to go over to the Sam's Club, and there are some delays, this is the reason why. It's because we are seeing dozens of marchers moving through this vicinity right now.
And so they've turned right now onto Landview Drive. This is the area over by Sam's Club, the Walmart Supercenter over there. There's a Golden Corral back there. So it looks as though they have left Wendover Avenue. Hopefully that means that Wendover will be allowed to reopen shortly, but it looks as though they are heading to a different parking lot or an area that's over by that Sam's Club and that Walmart. Going up a hill. Let's see. We're going to keep on this shot. WFMY News 2's Itanius McMiller is following along with this group just to kind of see where they're going. It looks almost like they're leaving. Couple people got into some cars. There's a gentleman handing out water. Remember, it is a hot day outside. The sun blazing down, and this group is walking toward, I think that's the Sam's Club.
I believe that is the Sam's Club, and maybe they're taking a break right now. It's really unclear because this really wasn't on our radar.
Right.
This wasn't an organization that gave us a press release or had any organizer contacted us earlier in the week saying, hey, this is what we're planning today. So we will continue to monitor this. But in the meantime, another demonstration, very large, we're talking about a good 1,000 people, have gathered in downtown Greensboro. You are looking live now in that vicinity. That's where we find WFMY News 2's Alma McCarty for the very latest.
Hi, Julie and Chad. I am on the part of Summit Avenue, Davie, that is right here at LeBauer Park. Police have actually blocked off this part of the road from Lindsay Street all the way over to Friendly. And at this point, it's for very, very good reason. You know, you were talking earlier about a small group of dozens of protesters. This is likely thousands of protesters. We want to just keep you along the perimeter, just show you just the scope of people that have turned out for this Black Lives Matter protest today in LeBauer Park. Speakers just really began speaking. We don't exactly know what they are saying at this point, but the crowd is so big that it is all the way in the grassy area of LeBauer Park, pouring out into the street. We're going to keep you walking just to show you again the scope of the crowd that is out here at this point. As Kevin Kennedy said earlier, a very diverse group of people out supporting this movement, supporting this message, and it's the same here for LeBauer Park. We'll just take a quick listen. Again, a very energetic crowd out here, of course, all in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, ending systemic racism, ending police brutality. These things have really been on the forefront of what we've been covering for the past week and some change. This is probably, for me, one of the biggest groups of protesters, of demonstrators that I have seen out here in my time covering this very important historic moment. So we're just gonna, again, keep walking and showing you people are still showing up to this protest at this point, again, in LeBauer Park in downtown Greensboro. Again, hundreds, if not thousands, I would estimate at this point around 2,000 people are out here on the streets of downtown Greensboro. set up here in the splash pad area. There have been many people who have donated water bottles. There are refreshments. There are stations to make signs.
You are now looking at two live pictures here, left in Greensboro in LeBauer Park, where Alma McCarty estimates maybe a couple of thousand people who have gathered for a demonstration, really just a huge gathering. And then on the right is a live picture in High Point, where potentially thousands more have gathered.
And that's where we find WFMY News 2's Kevin Kennedy, where the marchers are now outside of the Moorhead Rec Center for some speeches there. Kevin.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Julie, we've made our way to the Recreation Center. The march was probably about a mile and a half or so. We've made our way to the rec center right now. I can't tell you the pastor that I'd been talking about over the past 15, 20, 30 minutes or whatever. Pastor Oraquick is up on stage right now. A second ago, his 87-year-old father actually took the stand and addressed the crowd. Right now the pastor's up there. He's talking about that one man, George Floyd, brought everybody here together. I'm going to go ahead and just let you listen in for just a second about what he's saying to this crowd.
Protest on last Sunday. You know, I want to say I thank God for you, brother. I don't care if you don't clap or not. I thank God for this brother. What he did on last Sunday sparked what we're doing on this Sunday. I know God set the whole thing up, though. You threw an alley up so I can dunk it. You know what I'm saying? Hey, everybody's got to have a Scottie Pippen. Everybody's got to have a Michael Jordan. Brother, I thank God for you being Michael Jordan. Everyone, I'm grateful today because on that message on last Sunday, our chief of police gave his word that he was going to allow his officers, or some of them, because they got to cover the city, all of them can't be out here. Right. But he actually put together an audio that we're going to listen to later of his police officers saying that we denounce police brutality. Come on, y'all, clap that. Come on. Chief Kenneth Schultz. Yeah, I had to call your whole name, Chief. I had to call the whole name. Chief Kenneth Schultz, we thank God for our chief of High Point Police. Amen? That's why we're here. That's why, and you see in the march, the officers were walking with us. You see that? That's what it's going to take. All right, everyone, at this time, we're going to have a poem by Miss Micaiah Johnson.
Well, there's a little bit of a pause. I'm just going to go ahead and say that it does appear, we talked about it, that there is an audio recording of a number of officers within the High Point Police Department that will be played to the crowd, as you heard the pastor just talking about, denouncing what took place with George Floyd in Minneapolis. That audio recording is expected to be played later. I'm going to go ahead and we'll go ahead and let you listen in a little bit more right now.
I am proud to be a member of the African American community, and I am honored to speak to you today on behalf of the brilliant and bold youth. I'm sure many of you have seen the 4-part documentary series, When They See Us. It is the story of the exonerated 5 black and brown boys living in New York City were coerced into confessing to a crime they did not commit. Antron McCray, Corey Wise, Kevin Richardson, Raymond Santana, and Yusuf Salam spent the most precious years of their lives behind bars. Their innocence was stripped from them and their lives were forever changed. When they see us, shows how corrupt the justice system is in America. This must change. I challenge the system today and those who see us as threats and not as equal citizens. I challenge you to see racism, to see inequality, but most of all to see and to seek justice. From this day forward, High Point, when they see us, they will see the future. A future that will shine brighter than the darkness of the past, the light that is not afraid to flourish. They will see irreversible greatness, the kind that they now try to hide in the history books. But we will be seen. So know that you are watched. Know that one moment can be observed by the entire world. When they know us, they will know how we impact the world. Thank you.
All right, you are looking at live pictures right now in both Greensboro and High Point on this Sunday afternoon as thousands gather in the Triad to demand change. In High Point, we are looking at a group of people who are outside, kind of adjacent to the police department, the Moorhead Rec Center. And on the left, WFMY News 2's Marissa Tansino is in Greensboro at LeBauer Park, where thousands more have gathered. How's it going, Marissa?
Yeah, Chad, well, just so many people here. Like you said, there has to be over 1,000, if not more. Take a look behind me here. We're just on the street outside of LeBauer Park, and there are so many people here that they are filling into the street. The Greensboro Police Department actually has this road blocked off down the way. So people are out here with signs looking on. We have somebody speaking right now, and I'll have Ryan, my photographer, take a look at the police cars that are blocking off the street to ensure that everybody can come out here safely. So again, thousands and thousands of people out here at LeBauer Park for this rally today. It started at 2 o'clock. We expect it to continue throughout the evening here. There is somebody speaking right now, and it just got underway a little while ago. There was somebody singing, now there's somebody speaking. So just so many people here handing out water, snacks. We saw somebody walking around with voter registration to ask to get people registered to vote if they wanted to. So you can just take a look. There are still people that haven't yet got here yet that are walking up the street to come here now. So it just really gives you from this perspective how many people are out here today for this demonstration to protest. And there was a list of demands that the organizers here put out with the advertisement to this demonstration. One of them is to for the city to make amends with the Marcus Smith family. A couple other things about homelessness and the stigma around that. So, and these are things that at the previous police chief meetings we have seen the people of Greensboro fight for. So coming out again today in an organized fashion to protest, to come together and stand together as one. So thousands of people out here today, and that is only expected to continue to get bigger as we still see more people showing up at this moment in time. So you can see people with signs, Black Lives Matter, racial equality, no justice, no peace. So again, we expect those powerful, raw emotions that we have been seeing all week to only continue today. So the people that came out were asked to wear black, bring signs, wear face masks. They're also handing out face masks for the people that don't have them and want one. So again, so many people here today, and we're going to continue to stay here and watch what goes on, see how many more people show up. So we're going to keep an eye on things here. For now, we'll send things back to you.
Marissa, thank you. So simultaneous events going on right now across the Piedmont Triad. You're looking at the event in downtown Greensboro at LeBauer Park. Also a demonstration happening right now in High Point. There was a march for about a mile, and they ended up right near the police department, right outside the Moorhead Rec Center, where thousands of people are gathering right now. There's also a demonstration along Wendover Avenue in Greensboro. At last check, the small group, dozens of people, maybe about 100, were walking along Wendover Avenue. Some people did go inside the Sam's Club. We have video of that on Twitter and on our Twitter page from our Denise McMiller. They were chanting inside the Sam's Club. It was a very brief visit inside that store, and those protesters have left. We will check in with her a little bit later on to see where those protesters are right now.
Sure, and it's possible that this could potentially impact traffic in that area once again. Wendover Avenue was shut down for a time as those protesters kind of took over an area outside of the Applebee's and the Red Lobster there. So we're going to keep an eye on it. Kind of surprising because this kind of popped up out of nowhere. We were expecting the main protest, the main demonstration to be downtown at LeBauer Park, and I guess this one just kind of popped up.
Exactly. So we'll continue to monitor that, but we also have some new developments regarding something that happened overnight. There is a George Floyd mural outside the Crafted restaurant. This is along the 200 block of South Main Street. Someone has defaced that mural. There's some spray paint on it. We're also now told that the artist who painted that mural is downtown right now. She is fixing it as we speak, so we're going to try to get some video for you and show you how the George Floyd Memorial and that mural outside the restaurant is being restored to its original glory.
Right. A lot has happened over the past week. As you know, we were here last Sunday evening talking about some major demonstrations in Greensboro, downtown in that area of Elm Street, outside the International Civil Rights Center and Museum. And it's definitely caught the attention of both people who are lawmakers as well as police and elected officials. Today, Mayor Nancy Vaughn of Greensboro sent out a statement, and in it, she said that critical conversations are underway in city government and in the police department. We are exploring substantive changes in policies and procedures based on discussions within and led by our community. She says that she is committed to several key steps. The step 1 is to thoroughly review our policies. Step 2 is to engage the community. Step 3 is to report back in 90 days. And step 4 is to implement substantive reform.
All right, so these demonstrators, they are asking for change and their demands, and this conversation continues with Mayor Nancy Vaughn from Greensboro responding and talking about, we hear you, and that is really the message, is we hear you.
Right.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, I was just going to say that, it's been positive that we haven't seen the kind of vandalism and the kind of looting that we had seen earlier in the week. It really seems as though, some of these groups have become more organized and really kind of weeded out the people who were making the situation look bad. We
certainly have to stress the fact that most of these demonstrations have been peaceful. It was just last weekend, there was some groups of outsiders that caused mayhem and really just kind of overshadowed that peaceful message that was brought about by numerous groups last weekend. So it happened in the overnight hours. Since then, a curfew has been put in place for Greensboro as well in High Point. That curfew remains in effect. That starts tonight at 8 o'clock. Like it has, and goes until 6 a.m. Graham, the city of Graham in Alamance County, also has a curfew 9 p.m. And that one is going to be lifted for good at this point on Tuesday, but the ones for Greensboro and High Point remain in effect until further notice.
It will be interesting to see how this situation both in Greensboro and High Point develop over the next couple of hours. We know it's hot out, but we know that there is a message to be heard. So we're going to be checking in with our crews in just a little bit. We've got Kevin Kennedy following along in High Point as a crowd maybe the size of a couple of thousand people have gathered outside the Moorhead Rec Center across the street from the High Point Police Department. And we're going to go live to Kevin Kennedy now. Kevin, what's the latest over there?
Well, I tell you that a number of people have been speaking over about the past 20 or 30 minutes since we got out here to the Nathaniel Moorhead Recreation Center. Just a short time ago, actually, the mayor, Jay Wagner of High Point, actually took the stage, and they had essentially a prepared statement that was signed by every single city council member here, basically not only condemning and denouncing what took place with George Floyd, but talking about what the folks of High Point and the leaders here in High Point plan to do over the upcoming days and weeks and months and years to go ahead and try to combat racial injustice or what have you. As I think we mentioned earlier, there is an audio recording that we have been told that will be played later on today, specifically related to every single police officer, or certainly at least a number of police officers here in High Point. Again, them denouncing what took place with George Floyd. I can tell you the crowd, it may have thinned out a little bit, but we believe the crowd is at least upwards of about 2,000 people or so. We marched about a little bit over a mile and a half to about 2 miles or what have you, all the way up past the police department to where we are right now on Nathaniel Moorhead Recreation Center. The gentleman you're seeing up on stage right now is Pastor Orrick Quick, one of the main organizers who put this together. And the police chief is here. We expect the police chief will most likely take the stage. I can't tell you the police chief, Kenneth Schultz, was walking with protesters earlier up at the front of the line, and at times we saw him arm in arm with not only protesters but also the pastor. If I heard right, my understanding is a family member of George Floyd is getting ready to take the stage. So I'm going to go ahead and stop talking and just let you listen to what this man has to say.
First of all, giving honor to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Thanking God for everything he's done and everything he continues to do in our life. Seeing the devastation of my cousin laying on the ground with a knee in his neck, handcuffed to the ground. When my sister called and told me, I was at awe. And seeing that sent chills through my body. But one thing that put in my mind is that my cousin's death was not in vain.
Yeah, that's right.
Let me say that again. His death was not in vain. That's right. It sparked a fire.
That's right.
A fire deep down in the inside to let people know, oh no, we will not take that anymore. For justice, for righteousness, the fire will keep on burning in your heart. So when you see injustice, you make sure that you're doing the right thing. Even when you're doing the right thing, sometimes it seems that people take that for granted. But I'm here to tell you today, only thing we have to do, yes, we have to pray. Yeah, I told him I prayed. But in my prayer, I also was hurting too. Because there's something on the inside, if you never felt it before, a family member, when it goes on the inside, it just sends chills all through your body. But I stopped by here to tell you, somewhere in the Bible that I read that weakness maybe endure for a night. But somebody say joy. Joy. Joy comes in the morning. Keep on doing the right thing. When you're down, keep on praying to God, and God will make a way out of no way. Trust him. Trust him. Whether you are everything that you have, trust him. My cousin, yesterday, they had the service in Radford, North Carolina. But through it all, they want to let people know, yes, have a peaceful protest, but don't go burning down buildings. Keep him in mind for what he's done. The fire will keep on burning. The fire will keep on burning. Trust and obey God, because he is the author and the finisher of our faith. Trust in him, and God will make a way out of no way.
Come on, y'all, let's give a round of applause.
Like you heard right there, that was the cousin of George Floyd, And the message that he was delivering was that he does not want, and hopes everybody here does not want, his cousin George Floyd's death to be in vain. He said that has sparked a fire that he hopes burns bright and long in everyone here, and that they can work to combat racial injustice and attain racial equality for all. Guys, we're going to go ahead and continue to monitor the situation out here and bring you the very latest. We are told, as I think I mentioned, that at one point they are going to be playing an audio recording of High Point police officers denouncing what took place with George Floyd. I'll toss it back to you guys.
Kevin, thank you very much. Powerful words. On the right-hand side of your screen of a demonstration in High Point, we heard the cousin of George Floyd on the stage talking about how George Floyd's death is not in vain. Also, powerful messages happening in downtown Greensboro for another peaceful demonstration, and that is where we find WFMY News 2's Alma McCarty. Hi, Alma.
Hey, Julie. Hey, Chad. I am out here at LeBauer Park where honestly the crowd just keeps growing. There are so many people who are out here for this movement, for this cause. I want to take you kind of on a walk through what we are seeing here. So I'll have Kyle, my photographer, kind of walk with me, and we're just going to take a look at what is going on. You can see that there's a lot of tables that have snacks, they have water. Of course, you've mentioned that it's very hot outside, so these are important things for the demonstrators out here today. We've also seen a lot of people who are registering people to vote, standing kind of on the corners of this protest out here. We're just going to take you through, again, some of the crowd, which just continues to grow, continues to grow. We're trying to get to the front of where we can see the stage, LeBauer's stage, and give you a look and a listen from there. But you can tell this crowd is big, this crowd is diverse. People of all ages, of all backgrounds are out here to support the Black Lives Matter movement and to denounce police brutality, systemic racism, condemn those things. So we're just gonna keep on walking through and giving you guys a better look at how things are in LeBauer Park right now. I just hold on. It appears as though one of the speakers in the crowd up on the stage told people to take a moment, get some water, make sure that they're good and hydrated. It is very hot out here, but despite all of that, there are literally thousands of people that showed up to protest. We're gonna take a look and a listen and give you the best coverage we can over WFMYnews2.com, over different forms of social media. But for now, we're just gonna send it back to y'all in the studio, live in LeBauer Park. Alma McCarty, WFMY News 2.
All right, thanks so much, Alma. You can continue to monitor on several platforms the protests and demonstrations unfolding in Greensboro as well as High Point. I did want to update some information that we have received about that protest that you've seen on Wendover Avenue. We're kind of keeping people in the loop here. A lot of people have commented on our social media pages wondering about when it will open and the situation over there. Right now, we aren't certain when it will end, but we do know that one of the protest organizers told our Itanese McMiller that they do plan to stay out there until curfew, which is 8 o'clock tonight. They say they do plan to go home at curfew, but if you are driving in the West Wendover Avenue near the Sam's Club and the Walmart, be aware that you could be dealing with some congestion, some traffic issues, and potentially the road closed again, like we saw just about an hour ago. So just be sure to watch for that. Again, you can continue to watch on our Facebook page as well as WFMYnews2.com. We are going to kind of regroup, and we're going to get ready for tonight's newscast. So we will see you tonight on WFMY News 2 at 6.